Thank you. Okay, firstly, I'm looking around. I can see a lot of guys, which is obviously great because no cues for the ladies afterwards. Brilliant. Firstly, thank you to Peter for asking me to be here today. I don't think I'm generally nervous about public speaking, but if I was, the good thing is Peter and his colleagues, they actually arranged for me to deliver to them a mental health first aid course back in January. So I actually know that if I was nervous, I have 9 mental health first aiders somewhere in the building. But mental health first aid, I don't even know if it's a term you've ever heard of. People don't know enough about it, but more to come about that later. The priority is not for me to sell training courses. It's let's talk mental health. But before we do that, don't even look at that, Amanda. Who is Amanda O'Connell? Obviously Irish, and I've lived in Scotland nearly 5 years. I run a mental health training business, Minds Matter Training, and I travel around Scotland delivering mental health training courses. The most common question I get asked when people ask me what I do is, do you come from a nursing background? Do you come from a psychology background? I say, no, actually what I did at university was a business degree. And actually I should say the main topic of your conference, JavaScript. I'm clueless, so apologies for that. I did a business degree at university. When I left university, started work at a university as examinations officer, organising all their exams. I did that for a number of years, up until 15 months ago, when I set up Minds Matter Training. Which you might wonder, okay, how do you go from a business degree, from a university examinations officer to mental health training business? Well, my story was that a number of years ago, I got quite mentally unwell myself. 2011, which isn't really all that long ago, I was quite mentally unwell. And I'm not going to spend 17 and a half minutes I have left, according to Alan's little timer, so no pressure. I'm not going to spend those 7 minutes telling you all about me, but a few facts. I have attempted suicide in the past. Not often you get somebody admitting to that. I have self-harmed. Occasionally I still want to. Very, very occasionally I still do. I am under the care of a mental health team. I have at least one mental illness. I could go on, you get the idea. But I'm smiling when I say this because there's no shame in admitting this. There's no shame in talking about mental health. In fact, we all should do it a little bit more often. That was just a little snapshot of me. But you're here in this fantastic building at a superb conference organised by fantastic Peter. Brownie points there for me. But think about you guys for a minute. And ladies, I tend to say guys generally, but I know there's ladies here somewhere. Say one, I know there's more somewhere. Yeah, hello. Can I ask you all to stand up for a minute? Okay, I've asked you to stand up, but I'm going to see how quickly can I get you to sit down. Nice try. Okay, at the top of my head, if you know somebody in your personal life who experiences depression, can you sit down? This is easier than I thought. If you know somebody who has self-harmed, can you sit down? If you know somebody who has attempted suicide, can you sit down? If you know somebody in your personal life who has died by suicide, can you sit down? Okay, where do I go next? If you know somebody who has OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, I got another one. If you know somebody who's ever had a panic attack, can you sit down? Okay, I'm left with 2 people. I guarantee if I kept going, I could get two of them to sit down, but I have 15 minutes left. So I think point proven if both of you could sit down. Now, that really shows that you might be wondering, this is a JavaScript conference, why am I listening to a talk about mental health? We've already just seen that you all, well, almost all know somebody who's been affected by mental health problems in some way. Actually, I just thought the two people who I had left standing, I could have said, you don't know me personally, but if you put me into the equation, you could sit down. But when I walked into the room and I stood up here, you weren't thinking, there's a person with a mental illness. I hope you weren't. But that just shows that actually, if you look around you, I was not willing to say, if you have depression, sit down. If you have attempted suicide, sit down, and so on. Because I'm not going to ask you to reveal that kind of personal information about yourself. But if you look around you, I guarantee there are a lot of people in this room who've experienced mental health problems. I was interested to know that, unsurprisingly, the majority were male, because actually most people who are diagnosed with depression are female. Yet, 3 times more males die by suicide than females. Clearly something doesn't add up there, am I right? Yeah. So what I really hear is that men, when they're experiencing difficulties, aren't talking and getting help. And the problem gets a lot worse. The less we talk, the worse the problems get. But don't get me wrong, I know there's ladies here, that's a general problem all round, male or female. We don't talk enough about mental health. And I hope that at this point, if there's anybody here who's wondering, why is there talk about mental health at this conference? I hope you're seeing already the relevance of this talk to everybody. Looking a little bit at statistics, I said 3 times more males die by suicide than females. It said that 1 in 4 will experience a mental health problem in the course of a year. But the way I would look at it, that's in the course of a year. In the course of your lifetime, almost everybody will experience a mental health problem, just like almost everybody will experience a physical health problem at some point. It might be minor, it might be major, it could be anywhere in between, but we will all be affected at some point. This is what the mental health community often describe as a head clutter image. We don't like it. What does this give out the image of? It gives out the image that somebody with a mental health problem, that's what they look like. Distraught, despairing. Yet in reality, I've already said, if you look around the room, I guarantee that a lot of people here will have experienced mental health problems. Many currently do. Fact being, you can't identify them because in some cases, it could be the person who's throwing themselves into work. That was me a number of years ago. I was going into work each day and people were none the wiser until my problem got to a really bad point and people did really become aware of it. And in reality, I was probably hiding it from myself as much as from anybody else. But it could actually be the really confident, outgoing person who's putting on an act, essentially. It could be any single person. It's not this image. It could be anybody. And they could be putting on any kind of an appearance. Just like, to be honest, with a physical health problem. People have all kinds of physical health problems that we can't see. We can't see them, but we don't talk about it. Why do we not talk about it? If I had enough time, I'd get some answers from you. But your answers probably would be, people are ashamed. They're embarrassed. They think people will think they're crazy. They'll think people will think they're not fit to do their job. I actually had an interesting conversation last September with a former staff member at the university I used to work at. 2011, when I was really unwell, I was in psychiatric hospital a couple of times. I attempted suicide on a number of occasions. Yet, actually, one time I came out of psychiatric hospital, went back to work the next afternoon, because for me, it gave me my focus, it gave me my purpose. I was actually able to go into work and just switch off from what I was feeling. Not everybody can do that, but in reality, when I was young, I experienced a lot of difficult things that may or may not have caused, to some degree, my mental health problems. But when I was young, I developed this tactic of get your head down, study hard, work hard, get a good career, buy a house, all this kind of stuff. So I had developed that coping mechanism. But I remember thinking a few years ago, if people in this university knew that their examinations officer has just come out of psychiatric hospital, they might be a little bit concerned about their exams. But I knew they didn't need to be. Last September, I bumped into somebody from the university, very high up position in the university, who I used to work with a lot for exams. And we were just catching up, as you do. And the guy said, "Oh, so how's your new career going? What was it you went to do again? You went to work with loonies, wasn't it?" I thought, oh, this is going to be interesting. And I said, no, I train people in how to help people with mental health problems. Oh, you train people how to help loonies? It's like, no, actually, out of interest, do you have any idea, why I moved from examinations officer to mental health trainer? I said, actually, I did wonder, but I didn't think to ask. And I gave him a few facts. I said, well, when I was working here, I became really mentally unwell. I was in psychiatric hospital. I attempted suicide, and so on. And I could see his face changing. I could see the penny dropping. And he said, but Amanda, you were our examinations officer. And I said, I know. And he said, but... And I could see what he was thinking. Something didn't add up. And I said, out of interest, did you have any idea or any reason to think over the past few years that I was not fit to do my job? And I was really confident in the question I was asking. And he said, if anything, we always talked about how good you were at your job. And I said, isn't that more or less point proven? Because people with mental health problems, he was equating as being loonies. And that's partially why people don't talk about mental health problems, because they are afraid of being labelled as such. But really, the more we all talk when we are struggling, the more we see that there's so much of it all around us. That is what happened to me. I remember coming out of psychiatric hospital. Only less than 5 people knew I'd been there. I became comfortable telling people what I'd experienced. And I heard a lot of, me too, I've been struggling too. The more I opened up, the more people opened up in return to me, and I saw how common it was. So really, key message, talk. No health without mental health. One of my big aims, I would love if we treated mental health the same way we treat physical health, in whatever form that might take. Really, if we could treat mental health the same way as we treat physical health, that would do a lot to break down the barriers surrounding people talking. You can probably think of illnesses. I remember even growing up as a child. Cancer wasn't spoken about, it was the C word, and now people say cancer. There was physical illnesses that were really full of stigma, and as time has gone on, that has changed. We need the same to happen with mental health. The way I look at it, some people have a physical illness. That's okay. Some people have a mental illness. That's okay. I came in and started talking about I have a mental illness. I wasn't embarrassed in saying it, because I say if I had a physical illness, would I be afraid to stand up and say here and say I've got cancer, I've got diabetes, I've got asthma, whatever it might be. We need to treat it just the same. Hope. I did say that I would look at not just illness, but wellness. Because we all have mental health. Not all of you might have a mental health problem, but you might have good mental health. And then something might change further down the line, and it might not be so good. I remember going into the guys when I did the mental health first aid training in Neo, and I gave an example. I said, to be honest, didn't stay in Edinburgh last night, so at an early start. My mental health wasn't so good. I'm not good in the mornings. Don't know if any of you are like me. Then I got on the train, I relaxed, and I was on time for my train, I'm doing good. I walked up, and there was literally one guy taking up 4 seats on the train, and I got so annoyed, putting it mildly, that I was like, I kept feeling myself getting really annoyed at him, and I was like, my mental health isn't so good. And then he did clear some of his stuff away, sat, relaxed. When then I met the guys in Neo, and I was getting comfortable and knowing the venue, knowing the room, my mental health improved. So, you can see how you don't have to have a mental illness for your mental health to be going up and down. I want you all to think, what can you do what can you do to look after your mental health? Because in the last picture we were looking at, there's no health without mental health. It's not just physical health, you have mental health too. And the way I look at it is, we all, I think, take steps to look after our physical health. It's winter, you wrap up warm. You're going out crossing the road, you probably cross at a pedestrian crossing. These are all things to look after your physical health. Things to look after your mental health. It could be talking to people about how you're feeling, not bottling up. It could be going out and doing exercise. It could be interacting with people. It could be making sure that you have a good work-life balance. It could be lots of other things. It could be just finding things in life to give you hope and meaning. I know that for me, when I was at my worst, it was when I really started to get hope in my life that things started to improve. I got hope that I could make something good come out of my illness. I got hope that I'm not just a person with a mental illness. A good friend to many people, a clever person. I don't want to keep going on because it just sounds like I'm giving myself loads of compliments. But there's a lot of things that are good about me, and I'm not just somebody with a mental illness. And that idea was something to give me hope. And for anybody in this room who is struggling, and I encourage you to speak out, please know that you're not just somebody who has a mental health problem. Thinking of wellness. I mentioned a couple of things that might help keep you mentally well. Really, it is not for me to ever say to anybody, this is what you do to keep yourself mentally well, because every person is an individual. And I think, what works for one person will not work for another. I've made a bit of a booper. Peter said to me, you've got your hashtag on the top right. Mention the hashtag. I love Twitter, and I want you to tweet on the hashtag and tell people about what you've heard today. But even better than that, my hashtag SJSAmanda. I said that some of you in this room may have a mental health problem. But it doesn't matter if you've got a mental health problem, you still need to do things to look after your mental health. Alan's timer tells me I have 1 minute and 20 seconds left, so I've not done too badly. What I want you to do is take a little bit of time, 20, 30 seconds, to think, what can you do to look after your mental health? And then I would like to ask you, if you are a Twitter user, if you're not, you should be, it's fantastic. If you are a Twitter user, how about you tweet to help look after my mental health? I will. And use that hashtag, then other people can see it and you can read and get ideas from other people. So I'm going to leave that with you for a moment. I hope we would see some phones out or some people on laptops. And I think the good thing is when you write it down, you sometimes think, I should do this, I should do that. By writing it down, or tweeting, I should say, we are in 2014 after all. By tweeting it, I do hope that it's kind of a commitment to you to do this thing. I'm going to finish up at this point, but I've been told that there's a fancy thing called a discussion track next door. I'm about for that, and I'm happy to discuss anything that I've said further. I know I have got some really tough competition with the possibly more relevant talks to Scotland JS, but I see this as absolutely relevant to everybody. So I know I've some tough competition, but I hope you will come next door. But if you don't, I do have a table upstairs. I did not come in here to promote mental health training courses, but I do have some leaflets about training courses. I do have some booklets on managing stress. I do have some meditation CDs, not a lot of them, so you better get up there quick. So that's it from me. Thank you, everybody.